I am going to be pouring some epoxy into the top of this. If you're doing this, this is some good stuff. I've used this, but it can cause skin irritation, eye irritation. If you've got any issues with chemicals or something like that, be super cautious. You know, read the instructions on this. I've used this. I'm comfortable with it. It's a 1-to-1 mix ratio. Here's the hardener. Here is the resin. This is a little yellow. It does not turn yellow. It turns clear and dries completely clear. I am not going to tint this. You know, sometimes once it's mixed, you know, you can go ahead and add a tint. I'm not tinting this because I want to see everything that I did down here. Couple of things that could be problematic. One of the processes is when you're pouring this, and we'll get there, but is you get bubbles out of it by heating the surface of it. So this will be sitting like that, and then I'm going to take this and heat it. Well, this plastic is pretty light, and that's made to tear away later, so you can see in there. Just because it's a demonstration model, that's why I've got this here. But it's also light enough that this could affect it pretty easily. So I've got to be really careful about bubbles and where they accumulate. So anyway, all that being said, let's get this stuff mixed. First off, it says mix equal parts resin and hardener by volume. Now, this is just easier to do this way. I am going to elevate this so I can see it. Be careful because the resin, this is the resin, it's a little thicker than the catalyst. And so you would typically, that's what I did, poured the resin first, thinking that it would be the same for the catalyst, and the catalyst is a bit thinner, so you got to be careful. You don't want to get too much of your catalyst or your hardener in there. So that looks to be, yeah, that's 10. And now the hardener, again, it's a little thinner. It'll go a little faster. I think that's it. That's 20. All right, so there, I'll wipe that off too. There is our mix. And now, I do recommend kind of looking at your watch. You know, just don't think, oh, that's been 3 minutes. No, make sure, because this stuff really does need to mix properly so that you don't have any issues of cure time or anything like that. You know, you get an extended cure time, boy, talk about being unhappy. Or something just doesn't want to cure. I've had that too. I've used like old, I've got some yellow-green Neatite, you know, green stuff. And it's really old. And I made something out of it. I was just so mad because it never really cured. Well, it was my own fault because it was too old. So now just this action right here puts just a ton of bubbles in it, but there's a couple of things that you do to get rid of those bubbles. One of them, careful, I'm being a little bit too, I'm getting bubbles pop out of this thing and float out, so I gotta be careful. Don't want to breathe any of that in. Make sure you wear a mask if you're doing this and you have any issues with chemical stuff. So it's only been like a minute, so we've got a ways to go. So I think that's around 3 minutes. I think it's looking pretty good. And now, so one of the techniques of getting bubbles out of it, I'll put it here in the middle so it's a better focus here, is to like do it high so it's like a little stream, and some of the bubbles then break in the little tiny stream because they're just too small to flow in the small stream. So start low, and then I come up here, and then by going like this, that can break up some of your bubbles. Now I should say, and I did film, that I put Mod Podge and water on it to seal it, because I don't want this to activate any of the paint that I've got in here. So I'm just going to let all this drain out. I've got plenty of working time. Okay, so now look at all those bubbles. I've got to get rid of them. And it's really super easy. It's just, I don't want to destroy my, my plastic. This plastic out here, not a problem. It's that clear plastic there, but I wanted clear plastic. So I'm just going to have to deal with it. All right, here we go. Because it's just a real quick swipe. You don't spend any time with this flame over it. Okay, so watch here. See? It's so quick. Still want to be careful. Now, as this sits, more of these bubbles will come up to the surface. So I'm going to put it in a warm environment. That'll help the bubbles. I'm going to try to get some of those bubbles back there. This is the scary part for me because it's right up against that thin, clear plastic. See, it's already deformed. Boy, yeah, that's going to possibly be an issue later. Hope not. It's important to get as many of these bubbles out because they obscure the view of what's below it. So it says you can do this with a torch or a heat gun. So I might just bring my heat gun out, but I think that this is more directed. And you see I'm kind of going over this more than once. And I think that's important to do it that way. You just got to make sure you don't do too much. You can overheat it. You can cause this stuff to deform with the heat too. So got to be careful. Gonna let that sit. Let more those bubbles come up. Just a quick pass. And you can see through it now really nicely, but I can also tell there's lots of little tiny bubbles. So I'm just going to keep working with it. And as they come to the surface, the heat just knocks them right out. But I'm just going over so quickly. Any pause, any delay is going to cause it to want to, I don't know. I've never seen the resin boil, but I fear that that's a possibility if you go too slow or something like that. Using a hardened piece of acrylic instead of this very light, clear styrene would have been a better choice for this clear part back here. I knew it was going to be problematic. Oh, see, look at that. Jeez, really too much time there. And I really hit that thing. I'm in danger, actually, at this point, of losing that dam, so I'm just going to stay away from it. I think the rest of this is looking pretty darn nice, though. I am going to cover this. I just saw that other thing fly in there, and I don't want something else to do that, so we shall cover it. So we're going to just make sure there's nothing in there. Something like that. And that's got to sit 24 hours. So that's kind of, we're done with that for today. Okay, and so today what I'll do is show you how I painted this. It is supposed to look like the inside of a bucket. I think it looks pretty good like it looks like the inside of a bucket if it's kind of away from you. Real close, maybe not. But yeah, I'll show you how I did it, and then I'm going to do another pour. So this is half of it done. See, You can see the level is not quite up to the top. And it's a little bit more over half, but that's fine. But now what I want to do is all these areas where I did, you know, like the biology growing inside and the cracks and stuff like that. I want to do that on the surface of this epoxy that I've already poured to hopefully get kind of a 3D effect, I don't know, and then do another pour over it. So that is what I'm going to do now. Okay, so our paint, I'm going to go with the same colors I used before. So this is medium olive, and that is Vallejo 71092. And here we have Vallejo 7881, green yellow, and then finally Vallejo 7913, yellow ochre. And you know, the ochres, I may not even put any in here. I'll just grab it off the tip because I just need like a couple little dots. Here, these are the primaries I'm going to use. I might use black too. I've got, well, I'm going to use this. I've got some German camouflage black brown. I used that when I was painting this and stuff. And when I was painting that. So I like to keep colors the same, you know, when I'm doing something with a specific look. You know, I get used to that color and how I work with that color. So lots of times when I'm doing a diorama or a derivative or whatever, you know, going back in, I'll grab the same colors so I don't mess with the look of it. There we go. I am also going to be doing something pretty wacky here. I'm going to be painting through the camera, and I don't know how well that's going to work, but we will find out. I need me a blotter. And I'll really try to get close here and zoom in so you can, you know, really see what I'm doing. Okay. So I'm going to start with the first color that I started with the first time, which is that that German camo black brown. I'm gonna try to go around the edges is what I'm doing. Let's see, there we go. But you want to come out kind of, you know, into it too to get that 3D effect, or into the open area away from the sides. There's a fuzzy right there. This is basically the basis of what I'll be putting green on, and then lighter green, and then finding some of that yellow ochre. Because I do want some of that yellow ochre out here. It's almost like a bloom, you know, or you know, interpret it as, you know, maybe one of these has gone bad or something like that, but it's just that variation of color to try to get it to look like something's happened to it different. Okay. is actually giving a shadow below it. So this is brilliant. I just love that this does have a 3D effect because there's a shadow now forming below it with the light. So that's really nice. I didn't actually expect that. So, but it does make it then look, you know, like it's on the surface, which is what I want. Now it's going to be underwater, but because it's back here, and then I'll paint, here, let me get this. I will paint green over this, and then I'll paint more green over it with the next layer. So yeah, I think this is going to come out really nice. It's supposed to look like this kind of, you know, water, grass, or almost slime that's, you know, built up in there. And it comes away from the edges and stuff like that. Doesn't mess with the water. The water's fine. It's just that this stuff is in there, you know, that just grows. So there we go. I think that's a good basis for that stuff. Okay. And it does float, so that's why I'm so excited about these shadows underneath it. This green algae than this. Let me zoom back out. Sorry. So the green will be bigger than all of that. So that is going to look like algae growing on the top. I think I need some more, actually. Not done. I like it. It just needs to be more up here, that's all. Okay, let her dry. Okay, let's let that dry, and we'll do a different color green. Okay, so I think everything's dry, and I'm happy with my weird paint job. And so I am gonna, it looks actually like something from heavy metal coming out of the pool of the Lochnar. Anyway, so yeah, I am gonna take that and put acrylic over it. And because we need to come up to right to the edge here, so I can create a dribble. So that is next. So I'll set that there, and we'll bring this in. And I'm not going to need a heck of a lot of this stuff. It's nice because you can just do a 1-to-1 ratio. So I do 5 mil of this, I do 5 mil of that, and we're good. Okay. I don't think I'll even need half of this, but it's just an easy measurement. Okay. So what do we end up with there? Right at 5. Good deal. So now we do the same thing with the hardener. And the hardener, oops, geez, I'm knocking stuff over. The hardener is not as viscous, so it's a little thinner. So don't let that fool you. It pours a little faster. So take your time. Okay. I just like to try to keep this clean. It's like I knew what I was doing. Look at that. Okay, so time to do some mixing. And you got to mix this for like, it just went, I got to go for 3 to 5 minutes. So I will stop and come back. Okay, that's been 3 minutes. Got to get my torch and I got to get a lighter. Thank you, timer. Holy God. That's obnoxious. Jeez. I thought I was getting a freaking message from the home planet. Okay, here's a lighter. And I'm going to try and burn off some of these bubbles like this in here first before pouring. Because when I do pour this, I've got this back clear piece of plastic that's going to be removed later, but I wanted to cut away. And that's just not that great. It's super thin and it's deformed so much already. I'm afraid I get too much flame near it. I'm gonna blow through it and, you know, mess up my pour. So I'm trying to take care of getting the, you know, at least a majority of the bubbles out in this. And then later on, and they just continue to kind of come to the surface as you heat it up. And I'm not trying to heat it up. I'm just trying to go over the top and burst the bubbles. And I don't want this thing to heat up necessarily. It's going to heat up on its own in curing. Okay, so that's enough for now. I'll do some more once it's poured. When I pour, the other thing I'm doing is I'm going to try to go really high up with a thin stream. Just blow it off a little bit. With a thin stream, and that thin stream, I've been told, heck, I didn't necessarily see that it worked. I saw a guy say that that helps also reduce the bubbles. See, I'm seeing bubbles just kind of go down the thin stream. So anyway, so now I do want to be careful, because one of the things this happens to do is once it settles, it can kind of overflow if you don't have, you know, enough place for it. But I think I did well. I may want to do another. I wanted a thin pour, so I could do another paint job and then a pour over that that's not painted. So we're going to call that, well, why not? I use as much as I can. There we go. Because I like this little deal where, you know, you get this, see, even some of the bubbles are popping on their own, but you get this 3D effect with the painting that I did in there, and that's really what I'm hoping to accomplish here. I'm trying to get it so you're getting less reflection to pick this up. Maybe if I change my angle, that ain't helping at all. There you go. I'll do this and then zoom in. So now when I'm shooting this, I'm, like I said, because this is so thin back here,
I'm going to be kind of, doing this stuff out here, and you just continuously doing it like I was doing in the cup. I just kind of keep going back over it, and I've got my flame set really low, at almost the lowest setting. It's on 2. And so now I'm just, see that? I'm going over, and it's popping all those bubbles. And I'm guessing the heat's also helping those bubbles rise to the surface. Now, see, there's just a line of bubbles along there. So if I go super fast, hopefully I'll not wonk out that back. See, that's not too bad. That worked out good. So I'll come back here. There's some bubbles in there, and I'll just kind of... There we go. It does shrink a bit, so whoop, whoop, whoop. See, it kind of got, I think, a little too hot there. So now, I don't know what this is, it's coming out. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to create here. It's almost like a scum, and it grows in the water. You just have to do a little bit at a time. I really like that looks, that 3D effect. I think that looks fantastic. Okay, it says to cover it and let it dry for 24 hours. I'm already seeing little stuff fly into it, so it's going into the cabinet. That's the end of that.
we got it all painted up. And I think it looks pretty awesome. Now, if you're a better painter than me, which is not hard to do, you're going to get a little bit better looking algae in yours. But I think the technique is pretty solid. You can see, I'm trying to do this with the glare. You can see the shadows that it creates. You can see the depth by having it poured and then painted on multiple surfaces. And I really like the effect. Like I say, I think, you know, if you're a little bit better painter, you're going to get a little bit better result. But I'm pretty darn happy with the technique. So that is it. That is how I painted and created, I guess, a little depth to the stuff that's in here. You know, if I had a deeper, you know, pour, maybe I could get a little bit more of a 3D effect, but I'm pretty happy with that. And I did do a top pour on there, so there's 3 pours and 2 surfaces that are painted. 3 if you count the original. So there you go. I think we're good for today. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll show you more when I got it. We'll see ya.